What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, and we are going back to Montana State here, man. We're trying to get to y'all's request from up there, up there in Montana, but we got our guy Lewis Kidd, offensive tackle, Montana State, multi-time FCS All-American, all Big Sky selection multiple times as well, and one of the top FCS offensive tackles in this year's upcoming NFL draft. So, Lewis, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Excited to get going.
For sure. So before you became one of the faces of this program, you were coming out, in high school up north, and what was your recruiting process like? Walk me through it. Who was recruiting you the hardest, and overall, looking back, what was the process like for you?
Yeah, so actually, Montana State was, I think, my last offer. Like they offered me the latest. My first offer was from University of South Dakota, and then I got an offer from the school over the hill down there in Montana, and I took a visit to there in Missoula, and it was my first college visit. I really enjoyed it. And I made a really good connection with Ty Gregrack, who was the defensive coordinator there. He was the one who was recruiting the Minnesota area. And so I got connected with him, like basically like got to spend more time with him than I would have because they didn't something happened with our flights and the 4 or 5 of us that were on a trip that weekend. They didn't check us in time or something like that. So we got to the airport and we ended up getting delayed like 6 or 7 hours. So we had to get sent back to our hotel room. And Coach Gregory actually picked me up and like got me food and like brought me back to his office. And we watched Sunday football together and stuff like that. And I got to meet his wife and all that stuff. And so developed that relationship there. And then, so I was recruited huge by them. And then also had FBS. I had an FBS offer from New Mexico, and I had some interest from UConn. And it was interesting because both UConn and New Mexico wanted me for D line. And so that was kind of what I was comfortable with. Like I played O line, but I wanted to, try to continue to play D line as best I could. Kind of a, you know, young kid, just wanted to keep doing that, whatever. Probably wasn't the smartest thing for me to be trying to do, but it is what it is. It all worked out. And so then a few weeks later after my visit, I heard Coach Gregrack was leaving and he was going to Montana State. And I didn't really have any contact with Montana State. And so I was just kind of not necessarily in the dark, but I just didn't know what was going on there. And ended up getting a call from him. He was like, "Hey, I'm here at Montana State now, and I want you to come visit here, and I want you to come with me and come play D line here." And so came to Bozeman, and loved it. I immediately felt at home. I knew it was right where I wanted to be, and got back from my recruiting trip on Sunday and committed that night. So talked to my parents and all that stuff. So it was awesome to develop that connection, and then instantly just I could just feel the difference being in Missoula and between Bozeman, and I felt more at home at Bozeman, and it's the best decision I made for sure.
I'm sure all those Montana State fans are going to love to hear that, man. But, the FCS was in a real tough spot, especially this past spring season with COVID. A lot of programs just canceled the season. Some tried to played one, as few as one, and some played a full season if they could. For you, how did you stay ready, and how tough was the COVID season on yourself and the program?
Yeah, it was tough. I think not, obviously there's some FCS guys and all that, everybody but everybody who experienced that and went through it, like there was for everybody, even if you did play, there was a time when you were practicing, you were working out, and you had no idea if you were going to play. You had no idea if there was games on the schedule. You had no idea if you were going to even be able to come in to work out the next day. I mean, we were getting canceled and quarantined and close contacted and all that stuff. And it was just such an uncertain time in the world, obviously. And then specifically in our group, like it was just so weird because, you go and all college athletes will tell you it's everything's scheduled, it's like boom, 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 boom. All right. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is exactly what I have. I know where I got to be, when I got to be there. And during quarantine and during COVID and stuff like that, it was almost just like football life just paused. And there were some cool aspects about it. It was nice to kind of, connect and do stuff with that, like with guys on the team as best we could. But it was also just weird and kind of tough mentally. Like I know there were so many guys that we didn't know what, like we suiting up in full pads, getting ready to go practice, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Like we know we're not going to play this season. Like we know we might not even play in the spring, and for us, we didn't even play in the spring because I think the decision was right. I don't think we would have been able to get any type of good, solid practices in Bozeman during that time, just because the weather is crazy, and obviously with the coaching change during that time, it was just like it wasn't in the cards for us, and I think it was the best decision for our program. But again, like I said, it was just a crazy time, full of uncertainty. Lost a good amount of guys who were just like, at this point, like this is kind of taking my sign. Like I'm kind of taking this as a sign. I'm going to call it. Some guys that could have come back for another year and didn't wanted to move on. And so, losing those guys that you came in with and some of that was tough, but obviously it was awesome. And for those of us that stuck it out and those of us that continued to go through with it, it paid off, and we ended up finishing with a pretty good season. So, a lot of people were transferring, a lot of people were moving around, and I was just like, I'm just going to stay put, finish what I started here. I don't want to go anywhere else and make new friendships and all this other stuff just for 6-7 months. I didn't see the point in that. I didn't want to do that, and so I think it's, again, one of the better decisions I made for sure.
I mean, you definitely did, man. You guys made it all the way to the FCS championship game this year. First team since 1984 for Montana State. So for you, outside of the national championship appearance, what were some of your final takeaways on this 2021 season?
Yeah, this season, to go out as a senior, to play in the national championship, there's not much more you can ask for, to play the way we did all season, and to be surrounded by a group of guys who were all focused towards a common goal was awesome. And just to see where I came in 2016, to see where the team was at, and obviously, I redshirted that year, but from every year on, just building up and each year continually getting better. From the day I got there, Coach Choate, when he first got there, and all of our coaching staff, stuff like that, it was like they were preaching, leave the program better than you found it, right? And so going out as a senior like that, I think we were 4-7 or 3-8 in 2016. And then to go out the way we did is just like, I feel like I left the program better than I found it, and I think the guys under us and the coaching staff now there is only going to continue to elevate that and continue to bring that program, continue to keep them at the national level and, relevant for sure for years to come.
They definitely are, and you guys, I feel like we're in a very unique place entering the playoffs. One of your starting quarterbacks transfers out the 2 or 3 days before the first round of the playoffs. You guys have a true freshman step in who lived up to all expectations with Tommy, of course, and then in the championship game, a third quarterback had to step in, but due to Tommy's injury, man. So entering the playoffs, how were you guys so ready to face the adversity that you guys were kind of going through into the playoffs?
Yeah, so I think it starts all the way back when Coach Vegan got hired. Prior to that, we focused on spring ball. We took it seriously, all that stuff. But Coach Choate's philosophy and Coach Vegan's philosophy were just completely different. Coach Choate was kind of, all right, let's pick 2 weeks and see when the best weather is going to be in the spring, and let's knock out as many practices as we can. As long as the weather's good and the field is good, we'll knock them out and get it done. And, some days we'd practice inside the stadium, like inside the basketball arena, and we'd finish 25 minutes early to put the basketball court back together because basketball was coming in later that day to practice and stuff like that. So, we were even, obviously, you're still getting work, you're still practicing, you're still doing ball, but it's different. And when Coach Vegan came in, the first thing he said is we're going to do a traditional spring ball. We're going to go 5 weeks. We're going to go 3 days a week, and we're going to practice every day. And his new philosophy that we weren't necessarily used to was double repping everything. And so, you have your first and second group and your third and fourth group, and they're split on either end of the field doing, 40 reps or 25 reps, right? And you're just doing 25 reps continuously. And then at the end, you take a break, 5 minutes, and then you flip flop sides. And the scripts stay on the same side, but the guys are just changing. So everybody's getting the same amount of reps and the same type of reps every single day. And at first, it was really tough to see, like, okay, what are we doing? Because especially in spring ball, we had some injuries. And I think it was a combination of, we were doing a lot right off the bat in spring ball, but also just because we had been on a year hiatus, right? We didn't play in the fall. Everything was kind of uncertain, so we didn't really get all that great work that we could get during the COVID time. But now we're coming back, and it's kind of like from 0 to 100 really fast. And so we had some injuries. Luckily, nobody who got injured was like I think we had one who was bad or wasn't going to be able to come back for the season, but everybody was for the most part like, okay, out for a couple weeks or going to miss the remainder of spring ball, but we'll be able to be back for summer workouts and stuff like that. And so I think then at that time it was like, okay, what are we doing? Like, I think guys were kind of like, why are we doing this? Like, I'm so tired. It's so tiring. Like, this sucks. And it was for a while. Like, it was a grind. And but getting done with that, like, you could just see, like, as a senior, I could just see that, like, freshmen, those young guys, all that stuff, like, there was just better understanding, like, full understanding. So, like, it wasn't just like, oh, the seniors and juniors know what they're doing. It was like the freshmen know the same thing. They might not obviously be able to, get the same verbiage and all that stuff like that and be perfect, but they understand the concepts. And then it really showed when we got to fall camp, and we kind of started doing that for the first couple weeks of fall camp. And I mean, even like the freshmen, like, I noticed there was less, especially because when freshmen come in and younger guys rotate in. I mean, as a freshman, you're seeing a lot of stuff. This is your first time in college ball. Like, you're drinking through a fire hose, right? So it's a lot of stuff right at you. And so there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of busted plays. There's a lot like that. And I noticed right off the bat, like, when we finished fall camp, I was like, there is like only a handful of plays I can remember that were like busts, that guys were going the wrong way or didn't know what play was going on. And it's because all of us have been taking the same amount of reps every single day since, the new staff came in. So I think that helped, especially, going throughout the season, and, all those injuries, just a part of the game, and having guys ready. So it's not, oh, well, I did take this rep, but it was back in spring ball and I only did it once. But it's like, yeah, I've taken every single rep that the starter's taken, and I know all the plays that the starter knows. So now it's just going in and doing it. So I think that's, kind of a testament to what we started doing there. And, obviously, like you said, it was a crazy time, and obviously didn't finish the regular season the way we wanted to. And I think that, as unfortunate as that was, and as poor of a game it was to lose on, we kind of talked about it as like, it's kind of a wake up call, because some of the things that we were doing were kind of being masked by us winning. Some of the things that weren't working for us necessarily. So that loss kind of just shifted the mentality and got us back on track to make the deep run and finish strong, basically.
And you guys did finish strong. I mean, that performance against I believe it was Sam Houston, man. I mean, that I remember coming on the show and being like, I don't know where that came from. That was insane. And I mean, you guys set YouTube on fire with that one. But this offseason, man, you got an opportunity to go play in the NFLPA Bowl. I mean, you guys were well represented in that game too. 3 Montana State players. So for you, what was your experience like, and how did it feel to suit up with 3 of your teammates one last time?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. A blessing, just more football, right? I mean, that's all anybody ever wants, especially when you're going out as a senior. It's like, what else can I do? It's weird that it just kind of felt like I was in the mode, because, I went to the CGS right after the College Gridiron Showcase, right after the championship game, and did that, and then got the invite from there to the NFLPA. So it was basically like I just was extending my season a couple of weeks, which I was just like, this is cool. Like, it didn't really even set in that I was done with football at that time. Like, I was done with college football, because it just felt like I was continuing that. But the NFLPA Bowl and the CGS Bowl, I mean, both were awesome experiences. And the NFLPA Bowl is just, there's so much great opportunities and great competition all week long. And it was really awesome to meet a bunch of different guys from all different levels. It was cool to be like with O linemen and kind of see because the biggest thing for me that was kind of like tough right away was when we first got there, they sent out the playbooks and I was looking through them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm lost. Like, I have no idea. We have to learn this in a week. And then we broke it down and we sat in the film room and talked about it all. And in like an hour, I was like, I know all these plays. And it was just because like what I realized is like every place does very similar things, if not the same things. And it's just different verbiage. So it's like, if you can learn and pick up the verbiage and equate it to what you know, it's pretty simple. And I really enjoyed it because the group of O-linemen I got to work with were awesome. And, 10 of us, we worked really well together. And all of us kind of, knew how to play with one another pretty quickly, which I learned is kind of not super common in the senior games. Like that's tough, especially as an O-lineman when you have to play 5 as 1 together. It's tough in a week to build that chemistry and make sure you're all on the same page. But like I said, it was an awesome experience talking to scouts, talking to different coaches, learning from, the greats and the retired NFL guys, Hall of Famers, like all that stuff. It was an amazing opportunity. I'm just really glad I got the chance to do it.
I feel like you kind of took a peek at my questions too on that one, man. Because the next question was about chemistry on the O line. I used to play O line, so I always geek out on the show on O line play. I love having O linemen on the show because I don't think unless you've played O line, you understand what chemistry means for those front 5 guys. Because you can have the best 5 offensive linemen in the country, and if they don't communicate, they don't have any chemistry, they're not going to be very good as a unit. So for you, kind of speak on how important chemistry is along the offensive line and why that Montana State offensive line was so successful for multiple years.
Yeah, I think like you said, like a lot of people don't necessarily understand that, especially on the O-line, like it takes all 5 of you guys doing the right thing to make the play successful. You heard the expression, it starts up front on both sides, but it's like, if there's plenty of plays I can pluck out myself where, I didn't get a block done and all 4 of my guys are getting their job done perfectly. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And backside guy slips through and makes a play in the backfield. It's like the worst feeling in the world because it's like, it's not like, oh, I suck. It's like, I let down my guys next to me who were working their ass off to get their job done. And I think, anybody on the O-line who's played can say and make that testament because it's just like, you don't want to let the guys down next to you. And I think throughout my years there, the O-line was always the tightest group. When I first got to Montana State, I played D-line. And so I was kind of like just on the outside, like I still kind of hung out with them, still kind of saw them, but it was like, I was always just like, God, they're kind of weird. Like they're kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of different. And then when I moved to O-line, I was just like slid right in and I'm like, oh gosh, now I'm sure people are saying like, oh, we're kind of weird. But it's like, it's just like so much tighter of a group. And, I think our coaches throughout the year, Coach Armstrong, Coach Tafalele, who ended up coaching us for, I think, 2 seasons. And those guys really instilled that and helped push the relationships. I talked to some guys at these different all-star games and they were like, my O-line was, we barely talked. Like we talked when we went to practice. We didn't hang out on the field, like off the field and stuff like that. I mean, we would do O-line dinners. We would hang out at coach. I mean, we would do stuff together. And I think building that off the field chemistry just only helped with the on-field stuff. And there was rarely ever a problem. I mean, we'd have, obviously there'd be some issues every once in a while, but I would equate it to like, if you have siblings or like brothers and stuff like that, it's like, oh, like F you, like I'm kind of pissed off at you, but it's like, kind of a brotherly love type thing. So, but I mean, it's awesome. Just those relationships, like, and how tight that group was and how tight we were for all my years there is something I'll cherish for sure.
Oh man, I like it. And so let's get to know you a bit as a player more, Mass. What all this is about is promoting the players. So when you look at your game, which NFL player do you think you model your game after the most?
That's tough. I mean, I don't know if I model my game, but I like this year for sure. Like every game before we went out to the field to take the field, I was watching Trent Williams highlights. Like I was just like, that dude's a bad man. He's an athletic freak. Like just absolutely crazy the things he can do. Because I'm not saying like I emulate Trent. I can do what he does. I'm just saying like I would watch that and be like, if I can do anything that he does, like it's all like that's gonna help me and all that stuff. And just you know the tenacity, like how ferocious he is, like his speed, his technique, all that stuff. So he's one guy that I've just, especially this year, looked to. Um, Teron Smith was a huge one for me last year. Obviously, like Quentin Nelson, like those kind of the big names. But I mean, those guys are just like when you watch them, it's like, gosh, like I like, and it's funny because you can pick things out like from a coaching standpoint, or like, oh well, when you're coaching O-line, it's like, okay, well his steps aren't like, but it's like they just naturally have the like. Doesn't even matter that they crossed over, their feet got like they're still just getting things done so well, and it's awesome to see. And I try to just pick up little things as best as I can to see if I can emulate that or try to at least.
Oh man, Trent Williams doesn't get enough respect. He's got to be in that conversation as one of the best offensive tackles of all time, in my opinion. I feel like he gets kind of dissed when it comes to that, man. But for me, I was very superstitious when I played. I had to listen to certain songs, do
Yeah,
certain things
yeah,
before a game. For you, what are your pregame routines that you have to do on game days?
yeah. So I got to go out, because I don't know, like I kind of developed different ones throughout the years, and I'd always tell myself like, all right, don't be super superstitious this year. Like, just do whatever. And then I always end up just being like, oh, we won big and I played well. So I'd always get into my little thing. Um, Big one was for me was like getting to the spot, whether we were home or away. I would always do like walk to the 50, walk back, do a little light stretch, all that stuff. And then I was always trying to be like one of the first ones ready, even though offensive line didn't go out for a while. Um, and then I go out there, do my own like dynamic warm up, go through all my steps, go through inside zone, wide zone, pass pro, just on air, just get moving, get the blood flowing. I'd have specific songs that I would queue up and play during, so I could kind of time it out. I was like, all right, when I'm here, I'm listening to this song. When I'm here, I'm listening to this song. Um, and then watching the Trent Williams highlights this year was a huge one. And then I'd always pray right before I went out, and then we take the field and we get it, and we got after it. And I wasn't a crazy super superstitious, but I always had my little kind of routine. What kind of like I would always chew gum like right before the game, like right when we got in there, and we would have like all these packs of gum like laying out, and there'd be like green, blue, red, whatever it was, and I'd always try to pick like the color that was furthest away from the team we were playing. So if we were playing if we were playing Eastern Washington, I'd pick the bluest blue gum you could get, so I wasn't chewing anything like with red. Like I don't know, it's just like that was even like some minor that I would get into, but yeah.
That is the best. I loved every bit of that, man. You said we cannot chew the same color as
Exactly,
too
exactly.
close. But I know a bunch of Big Sky defensive linemen are probably happy that you're off to the NFL now, man. But looking back, one-on-one, what's the number one mistake a defensive lineman can make against you?
Give me their chest. I mean, I guess is like not specific to me, but just I feel like especially for the level I came from, and just where I had an edge was the length I could play with, and if I could get hands on and grab somebody's chest, like I had won the block. There was not really much, not much going on besides that I was going to lose a block if I had control of your chest. So especially in the pass pro, like specifically, just if I had my arms extended and had my hands on you and had you locked out, like you weren't going to be moving very far. So that was probably one of the bigger mistakes.
I love it, man. And for me, I know I was pretty bad when I was playing in terms of trash talking. It gets heated on the offensive line and defensive line. You got the same, like maybe 2, 3 guys all game long.
Yeah.
It's just different. So for you, how big of a trash talker are you during the game?
See, I guess it depends who you ask. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a big talker. I mean, I am a big talker, but I'm more just kind of BSing with guys, like just kind of like chit chatting. Like, I never start stuff. Like, I'm never like out of my way trash talking to somebody. But sometimes there's D linemen that's how they play, and they want to get after you. So it's kind of a little bit of a retaliation thing, and but most of the time, I'm just trying to make dudes laugh and joke around and get them off their game, so they think like, oh well, he's not really, he's kind of not focused, but I'm really like kind of just trying to throw them off a little bit or make a joke about one of our O linemen to them and like kind of laugh at them, like just kind of see. And I think it's always fun when you get D linemen that are. There's always like two types of D linemen. There's never really any in between. It's like you either get the guys that are just straight, like hard, like they won't say a word. You like they'll talk crap. They'll do all that stuff. They're like mean mugging you the whole game. And then you'll get guys who are like, they'll kind of mess around. They'll talk back to you. They'll be, oh, great, good block, or I got after you on that one. And I always think the latter is a little bit more fun, but it's also fun to see those guys just kind of like those guys who are just mean and uptight. Like after the game, it's like, was it worth it? Like you got your butt kicked anyway. Like could have had some fun. But so yeah,
Oh man.
yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. And so, I know I know practice, going up against the same guys repeatedly. So, who is the biggest trash talker on Montana State? Give me an offensive guy and a defensive guy.
Oh my gosh. Trash talker on offense, that's tough because we didn't have a lot of them. Let me do defense first. Defense, I got to do a tie. A tie. And it's between Jeff Manning, who played in the secondary, Ty Okada, who played in the secondary, and Troy Anderson. Those three, like whenever we would do any type of crossover or anything, those three were always like chirping, always like it was always them. And it sucked because it was really frustrating for like with Troy because like sometimes like we would have plays that would like carry over and he would hear them and he would know our calls and like because he played on offense, like he was
Yeah.
literally last year, like we running behind us, all that stuff. So it's like he knows what like where the double teams are coming and he's talking crap and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, Troy, like it's not even fair for you. Like you're just cheating at that point. No, those guys get after it. It makes it a lot of fun. And then on offense, biggest trash talker. Maybe probably Willie Patterson, actually. Yeah. I'll say Willie Patterson. He's a little firecracker. He likes to talk his talk. So yeah.
I like it, man. Yeah, I can imagine, man. Troy had all quarterback figured out, running back figured
Yeah.
out, middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to take him off the field sometimes. You mentioned that. That's not fair at all. But for you, man, it throughout your career that you can pick, some players on your team and some ones you faced, from other teams. Who are some of the best defensive players you've ever had to face?
Yeah, I mean, as far as our team, like I got to face so many throughout my career. Especially like interior, like Chase Benson, Tucker Yates, Tyrone Fontenot, like all these dudes that I got to learn and kind of go against when I was younger. These strong, huge, guys who were just beasts in interior wise. And then this year specifically, like Mondre Williams, Daniel Hardy, like those two got me so like when I first got to fall camp, I was still kind of in like getting used to the tackle and getting used to the sets and all that stuff. And I was just like, gosh, like I really hope I can get this stuff down for the season and be the tackle, be the guy, be the player that I want to be this season. And those two helped me so much. I mean, they would torch me. Like I would get burned by those guys every day, especially right at the beginning. I was just like, God, this is frustrating. Like even, like Brody Grebe, who was a younger guy, but even like those, like I would get torched by these guys sometimes. And I'm like, okay, I got to really figure myself out. And so I really give kudos to those guys because they've for sure helped me kind of settle into that position. And when I was going against those dudes and getting beat, it was kind of like, Coach Armstrong, our coach pulled me aside. He's like, yeah, you're getting beat and this technique needs to be fixed and all this stuff. But it's like, if you can get blocking these guys consistently, like this is kind of the peak level of competition you're going to see throughout the year. And that was true. As far as other teams, uh, in the national championship, Braden Thomas, I think his name was, DN number 98. He was solid, very good player, very good DN. And then another big one that comes to mind, George Tarlis, who was at Weber. I think he's in the transfer portal or has transferred
Mhm.
or something like that. But those two, I for sure say were just, big, long, athletic, high motor guys that could make a lot of plays.
Oh yeah, if you listen, if you're going up against Daniel and Amandre every day, I don't think you're going to find a better like combo of edge
Exactly.
rushers than those guys, man. Those
Exactly.
elite
It
elite
helped,
guys,
it
and
helped a lot. It helped a lot for sure.
man. But it happens every year, and me covering the FCS, I see it from other shows and things like that who cover FBS. But what is your response to those who may overlook you in the NFL draft process for playing at the FCS level?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I think a lot of people who don't understand football super well do that. And I think,
Yep.
you ask a standard person like, oh, yeah, well, I played for Washington, well, I played for Montana, whatever it is. Like, there's great players at every level. And then even, you talk about the FCS or, oh, D2 or D3. And I mean, and it's coming out more and more, the guys that are getting invited to these senior games every year, and they're showing out and they're going and competing. And it's like, oh, well, this guy fits right in. And it's like, well, yeah, there's great athletes and great players at every level. And as far as being overlooked, as long as you're not being overlooked by the right guys, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
if there's somebody on the team, like for me, the way I think about it is like I don't care who overlooks me. I don't care who doesn't want anything to do with me because I came from an FCS or a small school or whatever it is. Like as long as there's one team out there that believes in me and believes in my abilities, and I can get my foot in the door, like that's all that matters. I know who I am. I know the player I am. I know that I can compete at the next level. And I know there's many other guys in my shoes who have the same mentality. And I mean, there's guys all over the league that you can look at that are putting us on the map per se at every level. Cooper Kupp, Super Bowl MVP.
Yep.
I was on the sideline with him, not with him, but I was on the sideline in 2016 watching him whoop our ass in a game. And it's like, there's guys like that all over the place. So to see guys like that and, other dudes in the league and all that stuff, it gives you a lot of confidence. And it just makes me excited because it's like all you really need to do is get your foot in the door and show that you can play and compete.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to clip that. That was the best answer that question I've had because you mentioned I think this year especially have FCS players have showed out at every All Star game. Christian Watson and Troy down at the Senior Bowl blew people away. Like Cole Dale, Lance McCutcheon, and I'm blanking on the kid's name from I believe it's Norfolk State who had a huge game in the
Yeah.
NFLPA game as well.
Mhm.
I mean, FCS players have been all in the news throughout the all season, man. So that was that great answer to that one. And then finally, man, I know you've probably been asked this in the draft process thus far, but if an NFL franchise asks you what they're going to get if they draft Lewis Kidd in April, what do you tell them?
They're going to get a guy who's no BS, very hard worker, an offensive lineman who is versatile, can play multiple spots on the offensive line, um, will not have any issues on or off the field. A smart guy who can really help elevate a team and assimilate into any culture and help elevate that program.
Oh man, listen, I'm expecting it. I don't say it to everyone I have on the show, but man, if I don't see your name called in April, we're having a whole episode here. We're gonna invite you back on, and
All right.
we're gonna talk about it, man. But for you, this is all about supporting the players. Where can people follow your draft process, man? What are your social medias? Any shout outs you need to give, man? This time is yours.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I just want to shout out to my entire family, all my friends, Montana State. Obviously, I wouldn't be here with the many people that have helped get me here. Have a lot of support, and I'm very appreciative of that. Social media on Twitter and Instagram, all that stuff. I mean, it's just Lewis Kidd, so shouldn't be too hard to find. Just look for the hair and the all that stuff. So, um, yeah, no, and I appreciate you having me on here, and it's been awesome and a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure, man. Listen, guys, make sure to go follow Lewis's draft journey. His social media will be linked below, and you can follow everything he's got going on up until April. And of course, when he gets drafted, I'm expecting all y'all to go out and buy my guy's jersey. I know we're going to be supporting him here on the Blue Bloods, but guys, for Lewis, myself, and the Blue Bloods, we are out for right now.